we've got to get kids excited about the sounds and the smells and what it's like to be at a motorsports event where it's really exciting. And I think a lot of parents that do these things, these track days, and all of us Dodge enthusiasts who go to the drag strip would love to share that with our kids. And so this is just a really cool way to do that.
So, why'd you write a book?
I got my first Dodge, I guess it's been almost a decade ago. And I think it kind of changed my life. And I think a lot of people would say that, that was the entry into the golden era of muscle cars for us. And I started drag racing, and I wanted to contribute something to getting more women involved in racing, because there are many of us, but there's not actually a lot of diversity in the women that are in racing. So for a couple of years, I kind of mulled over, how am I going to do that? I went to some of the women's track days with Accelerating Change and follow Shift Up Now and a lot of female racers. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of these really awesome women. And one day it just came to me, the reason they get more people involved is because they share their experience. So this was my way of sharing the experience with the youngest possible audience. Because if we don't get these little kids excited about cars, then their motorsports is going to die. It's going to disappear in the age of EV. It's going to be gone.
I don't know what you were like when you were 14 or 15 years old, but when I was 15, and I grew up in Detroit, so we could take our driver's ed at 15 and then got our license when we turned 16. And for me, I couldn't wait to get a driver's license. It was all about freedom. It was all about getting out of my house, right? Getting away from my dad and my stepmother and all the, my siblings and step siblings that were all in the, I couldn't wait to get away. That was freedom. Nowadays, the kids don't seem to have the same feel.
No, and I think part of it for me too, the freedom, but there was all this visceral experience of driving. My first car was a 1979 Super Beetle convertible, and it had 60 horsepower at the most. But, the sound of the car, the shifting of the gears, I fell in love with driving. And driving cars now is not the same. It doesn't have that same visceral experience. And I think we've got to get kids excited about the sounds and the smells and what it's like to be at a motorsports event where it's really exciting. And I think a lot of parents that do these things, these track days, and all of us Dodge enthusiasts who go to the drag strip would love to share that with our kids. And so this is just a really cool way to do that.
I'll tell you what, I'm digging it. I love the idea of getting kids into the sport. And you're not the first person that's written a book about, getting into motorsports for kids. I remember, gosh, I don't want to date myself. This might have been 16, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, even. Scott Pruitt, the former IndyCar racer, he raced NASCAR for a while, a lot of sports car stuff, lots of sports car stuff for the Chip Ganassi team. And he was always the guy that was always famous for looking at the camera at the end, and he'd always say hi to my family back home. It was really funny. So, but he wrote a book. He and his wife wrote, I think they wound up writing 2 books that were race car based for kids, for the exact same reason that you did. They saw the need to get the younger kids involved in racing and in motorsports. But you take it from and this, I don't want this to sound pandering, Jen, but from a female perspective, why is that important?
I think it's especially important because when I grew up, I didn't see any women in motorsports. Not that they weren't there, but they weren't highly visible. And if I had read a book, or if anyone had told me that race car driver was an option for me, then I would probably be somewhere different than I am now. And right now, things are rapidly changing in motorsports. We've got the W League, and that's controversial in and of itself, but women aren't getting funding. And if more people don't see women in racing, all sorts of racing, then it isn't ever going to become normalized,
Yeah.
and they're never going to get funded. So I think that's important too. And like I said, I'm not the only girl racing. There are so many of us. But when I searched out for a book, there are no books about girls drag racing. I think the only one I could find was like The Princess and the Pit Stop, which is super cute about track racing. But I'm not a princess. If you look at the character in my book, she's just kind of a regular girl, jeans and messy hair. And
So you're making it approachable, though. You're making it, it's not scary at all.
no, it's not. Mm-mm. And it's not just for kids. I think a lot of adults, first of all, that love Challengers, because obviously the cars in the book have some resemblance of of my car, and the adults that read it are going to enjoy that aspect, and the aspect of hearing the sounds of the track and what it's like. I had a friend read it and read it to her mom, who used to be a powder puff racer back in Florida many, many, many years ago, and she said, that is so cool. That could have been about me.
That is awesome. I love that. That's great. And you're right, though. I mean, there are a lot of female racers, more, and maybe, I don't know if there may be necessarily more than there used to be. I think there's probably more than there used to be, but there's definitely more. The story gets told more often. Of course, at the high end, in drag racing, of course, I mean, we've got, Leah Pruitt, who is just crushing it for Dodge Mopar Motorsports, right? I mean, we couldn't be, happier, with what she's done. But in sports car racing, we've got a lot of women in sports car racing these days. Of course, we're actually recording this before the Indy 500, and Peretta Autosport has made it into the Indy 500. They're starting 33rd with driver Simona Di Silvestro, who, by the way, in my opinion, better race car driver than Danica Patrick, but she didn't get the breaks for one
Amen.
reason or another, right? But Simone she's a killer race car driver, and she races for Beth Peretta's team. Beth, I don't know if you know this or not, Beth used to be the head of Dodge Motorsports, and I worked with her on programs for years and years and years. So I mean, it's great to see Beth, who was part of our Dodge and SRT family, has gone on to start her own IndyCar team that is mostly run with female employees and crew members.
Yeah, that is absolutely freaking awesome. And I think Dodge brand does such an awesome job of representing women and supporting women. It's just absolutely incredible to me. At the top of the sport, we've got Leah Pruitt, of course. But then if you look at the commercials and the ads and everything, there's women stunt car drivers, female depicted in their ads. It's just really awesome to love a brand and a car that loves you back.
That is great. So do you have and I'm sure, I mean, obviously you love the whole book. Do you have a little section in the book that you like? Could you actually, read us a little segment, something that
Sure.
breaks home?
Yeah. So this is the paperback version that is available on Amazon. And I'll just read part of this book is my actual experience the first time I drag raced. So I'll read part of that. After I've pulled up to the lanes, when it was her turn, she felt nervous and a little bit scared, but mostly very excited. Jenny took a deep breath, exhaled, and drove into the water to do a burnout as all the cars had done before her. The tires squealed and the engine roared loudly as the smoke began to form a giant cloud behind her car. Who doesn't love a burnout, right?
I could see it. I can picture that. I literally can see that in my mind's eye. God, that's what a good book does. Have you been a writer before?
No, I've never written anything before. So this is my first foray into writing anything other than a college project.
So what do you think? How's been the response to it? I assume it's got to be pretty good, right?
It's actually been phenomenal, honestly. The book went straight to #1 in new releases in children's motorsports, which is pretty cool. It's a niche, but for me, that's a big deal. And the response has just been astronomical. I've had a lot of people reach out to me from some car culture groups, and they're just like, this is cool.
So the book, it's available in both paperback, but you can also get it electronically. Is that right?
Kindle.
Well, I'll tell you guys what, I'm going to make sure that we've got a link to that, wherever in all the printing stuff around this so we can get on over to it. Before I let you go, Jen, and I know you started off as, doing some drag racing stuff, but you've switched over to road racing as well. Do you have a favorite? Do you lean one way or another?
That's a tough call. I love drag racing, but it's over too quick. Right now, I'm really focused on honing my skills in road course racing because I fell in love with it, but I think I need a different car.
You are definitely off the deep end in that thing. I mean,
Yeah,
you put that on track and no.
it screams, but it's fun. But after driving a more nimble car that was designed for the road course, I went, wow, I drive a bathtub. This is terrible.
Well,
So yeah,
it isn't terrible, but it's different. I'll give you that.
it's very different. It's like handling an orca compared to what it's like in a more nimble car. That doesn't suck the fun out of it though.
Jenny drives a race car. It's Jennifer Fuller. She's our guest here on the Dodge Garage download. This has been so much fun, Jen. I'm so stoked that you've taken your hobby and turned it into something even more special, and now you get to share it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me and thanks for reaching out to me and thanks for the support. I hope we can meet up on track one day.